Trigger warning, implied self-harm. Fault lines by SilveringOfRose. Pain doesn't write pretty poetry. It's midnight and I'm in my water closet of a bathroom, seeking relief that the warm needling of hot water on skin may offer, thinking how there was a time I never understood what it meant when someone described waves of pain washing over them, or said that pain radiated from wherever they'd been punched, shot, stabbed. But now I do. Maybe if I stab myself a little bit, I'll distract myself long enough to get this train wreck of thoughts under control and send them off in a direction that doesn't end with me twisting in the darkness of my own mind. But I can't, because the pain is... God. The pain. Suddenly, I'm thinking about that stupid TikTok challenge with the period pain simulator, and I'm laughing bitterly because I just want to turn this off, just for a minute, or two, or forever. But the pain is radiating out from that spot low on my abdomen, and I can feel my knees shaking from how I've locked my legs against the sympathetic cramping in my thighs, and I'm swallowing to keep the bile down because I know if it gets that far, I will collapse. But at least the cold of the floor will help cool my clammy skin, and maybe I can close my eyes for a little bit and everything will just stop. Stop for just a minute, so I can breathe. And so I'm digging my fingers into the cold tiles beside me, trying to leach the coolness through my skin and along the nerve endings that are burning their way through my flesh. And I'm trying not to breathe too deep so I don't feed the flames. But with fire comes smoke, and now it's billowing through me, softer than the flames, but choking my thoughts. And now the salty taste on my lips changes, and it's not sharp and angry like that cheap stuff you can buy at any supermarket. Now it's older and richer and mellowed by the passing of 1,000 tears. And now I'm remembering another time I felt pain like this, where it radiated out from a single spot, and my cheeks were so pale that if I stood still I would fade into the tiles beside me. Only that time it wasn't biological, it was man-made. Or rather, it was biological in that it was my father who dealt the crippling blow that this tidal wave of pain, still threatening to drag me under, is making me remember. But I hang on and keep trying to breathe, because that's what I do. I just put my head down and do whatever needs doing, such as breathing, even when I am dying inside. Just keep going, like that time I told him I was going to be a lawyer, and he replied that he was worried because he kept imagining getting a call that I need to be bailed out of jail. And I can remember burying the stabbing pain like 1,000 swords driving themselves through my heart down behind the confusion, because aren't lawyers the ones who get called to get people out of jail? And I can remember him speaking so earnestly with concern etched in every line of his face, but I couldn't tell you what he said because the pain. God, the pain. It went roaring through me, drowning out the sound of his voice, and I can remember how still I held myself, terrified that I would shatter into a million pieces where I sat. And I wonder if it wasn't there, on the very cusp of adulthood, and I had just barely become a woman, when I was still relatively whole despite everything else that had chipped away at the essence of me. I wonder if that wasn't where he broke me, or rather where I broke myself by holding too tightly to the pieces of my soul that wanted to fall to the floor. And so instead of 1,000 tiny flaws, I cracked my every hope and dream right down the center, because something had to give. And in that break, the words I can remember and those I can't planted the seed of darkness that I find quietly strangling me over and over again, no matter how many times I yank it out forcibly by the roots, like my grandmother taught me. It comes back, growing in that quiet way that weeds do, wrapping itself around every thought and every action, and the weight dragging me slowly under the quicksand of my own mind, where hanging on feels impossible and breathing is hard to do. But I close my eyes and I breathe. And instead of the wall, now my fingers are pressed lightly to the spot where the seed of a life never was, is viciously protesting this turn of events. And I'm not sure if I'm shushing it, or myself, or the dozens that came before it, or the dozens still to come that will never be more than seeds tearing themselves from my body because it cannot sustain that role. And I've realized that is probably for the best, because aren't we all bearing the scars of our parents' baggage? And I don't think I could bear the burden of knowing I could so fundamentally damage my own flesh and blood that they sit in a shower at 1 a.m. and distract themselves from the blunt saw hacking away at their insides by examining the clumsy patchwork of their souls, searching for a fault line with my name inscribed in the break.